Hi everyone, I'm Bonnie from Really Reasonable Ribbon and Make Time to Craft. Today I'm back with my Bow It All version 2.0 and I'm going to teach you how to make a fun topsy-turvy bow variation. This sample of the topsy-turvy bow uses one of the styles from the December Ribbon Club assortment from Really Reasonable Ribbon. These monthly color or holiday themed assortments are a great way to build your ribbon stash. I also have a second sample using 7/8 inch satin with grosgrain edge ribbon in red to show you a larger bow. For the first bow, I have my Bow It All set with pegs in the 1.5 and 3 inch holes in both the middle and the front rows to create a 1.5 inch wide bow. To create a slightly larger loop in the front that you see on the bow, I'm going to use the sleeves that normally go on the spool holder pegs. If you have your board set up with the spool holders in the back, these are the sleeves that sit on those pegs. I'm going to be using about 24 inches of 5/8 inch light blue delicate stitch satin. And I'm going to be using a mixed wrapping method, meaning partially figure eighting and partially just going around the pegs. So I'm going to demonstrate the wrap first before I put the sleeves on because it's harder to see when they're on there. So I'm going to start with the ribbon behind the back pegs. And for the first 2 loops in the back, I'm going to come around the back and we're going to figure 8 for the first 2 loops. Now the front loops around the front pegs, I'm just going to come around the front and then back in between. And now I'm in front of the back right peg and I'm going to go around and figure 8 around the left peg. I do this because I want as little bulk as possible, and this just seems to work better. And I also want that front loop to pleat nicely, and this is what's worked best for me. So let me do that again. We're going to start around the back 2 pegs, and we're figure eighting around the back pegs for 1 loop. Then we're between and wrapping around the front. And again between the pegs, and now we're going to figure 8 around the back too again. So let's put the sleeves on. And the sleeves are actually there just to give the front loop, make it just a little bit wider than the back loops. And this is just enough to do that. If I was to bring the pegs out to the next holes on each side, it would be way too wide and it wouldn't look the way we want it to. So I'm going to quickly do my wrap again that I just demonstrated. And at this point, you're just going to do your locking C-knot like we usually do. I'm folding both edges in to the center to make a narrow center for my bow, crossed over in the back, around down through the bottom, switch hands, make a loop, go through, and we're going to tighten. Now the front, I like to give it a little squeeze. The pleats in the front loop are what you're going to see, so you want them to look nice. And once you're happy, you're just gonna rock back and forth, tightening until you get it to the tightness that you want. And you can see on here how the knot kind of is on the back row, and that alone will kind of make your front loops a little bigger than the back ones just because it's stretching up. And with the 5/8 inch ribbon and a 1.5 inch bow, you don't want it to be the front loops to be too much bigger than the back. So these sleeves are just enough to give it a nice look. So once you're happy with that, you can either clip your tails now or wait until later. And then we're just gonna lift up and off. I'm gonna separate the back loops a little. And just, you know, work it like you normally would until the loops look like you want them to. And there you have, see how the front loop is just a little bit wider than the back ones, which gives it an interesting look. Now for these, I came across these nice brads in the store the other day and I had to have them. And I like these because, you know, if you don't like the way the center of your bow came out, this is a great way to cover it up and add a nice touch to your bow. And really, I just pulled the things apart for the brad and I wrap it around just like that and then just clip them in the back. And you've got your finished bow. So for the bigger one, the extra that you get from the sleeves is as your bow gets wider, it's not going to be enough to give it the same look. So for this one, what I came up with that worked really well was I'm just going to move out to the 1-inch hole in the center row. And that's the reason I'm working on this end, is because you have the different measurements on here. So I'm going to move this out to 3/4 of an inch. Now if you look at it, it's not symmetrical, but it's okay. It'll work out once we're done. So for this one I have 7/8 inch ribbon. This is our satin with grosgrain edge from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and I think I have about 26 inches. So we're going to do the same wrapping method. We're going to start in the back and figure 8 the first 2 loops. And then we're going to come around the front 2 pegs and then in between and figure 8 to the back. So this is exactly the same wrapping technique as the first one. I'm going to fold the edges into the middle, tie my locking C-knot, and I'm going to slightly tighten and give it a little working, pinch it a little so you get a nice pleat there. Now I'm working on getting the center of the bow in between the back 2 pegs. I'm not worried about the front loop at all right now, other than making sure that the pleat looks nice. And we're just going to rock back and forth and tighten it as much as I can. And when I'm done, we can either clip the tails now or leave them go. Slide it up and off. And you can see we have a very lopsided topsy-turvy bow. And all you have to do now is to gently work the top loop. Don't be rough with it. You don't want to loosen this knot, but you can gently adjust it until it's even, so you have an even loop on each side. And as long as you're careful, it will not disturb your locking C-knot and it will still be fine. And there is a quick and easy, larger topsy-turvy bow. And again, you can do the same thing with a brad if you want. You could glue a flower on, you can leave it plain. It looks good this way as well. And another thing I just wanted to mention, because everybody says, how do your bows look so perfect all the time? They don't necessarily want to look that way, but I make them look that way. And my little trick is I use the handle of a paintbrush and dots of glue, and I'll put some glue here and I'll position it exactly where I want it and I'll hold it till it dries. I'll do the same with the back tie. Put a little glue in here, hold it exactly centered the way you want it to be, and then it can't move. Once it's on your card, it's going to look the way you have it no matter what, because you've glued it that way. So that's your tip for success. And here is the final larger bow. You can get as large as you want with these. As you get larger, you just have to make these front two pegs further apart proportionately to your bow. So experiment and see whatever works best for you. Thanks so much for joining me and learning how to create this great and fun new topsy-turvy bow. If you liked the video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up below and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you'll be notified when I add new videos. Happy bow making!